Happy Tuesday. I'm going to give it a minute because I want to make sure I'm actually live on some of these platforms. And checking in. Grab some coffee, some water. One moment. Sometimes there's a little bit of a delay. Let's see. Welcome, y'all who are coming on. We're doing the final lesson of low back school. Oh, here we are. Okay, we are on. Good. So if you have any or it could be related to any part of the spine, actually, if you have any questions regarding the spine or specifically the lower back, put them in the comments. If I can't get to them in this session, I will get to them after. But today, the final lesson, we are covering functional movements. Okay, so one of the first lessons we did of the 4 was on the most evidence-based practices for treating the lower back. All right, and that is centered around strength training, actually, and building strength in the lower back, right? Not stretching the lower back more, but actually building strength in the lower back. The second thing we did, the second lesson was around stability and building stability in the lower back. And then the third lesson was around mobility, how to build flexibility in the lower back. Because yes, some of us are stiff, but the primary thing is still strength. And today we're going to focus on how to improve those movement patterns that definitely impact our lower back, and we don't even realize it, such as squatting down, which is basically raising and lowering our center of mass, hinging over to pick something up like a laundry basket, and then twisting, right? How do we twist? Oftentimes, what happens is when people injure their back is when they bend over and twist at the same time, which isn't a bad thing, but it's where you're getting the twisting from. So here's the thing, and this kind of takes on this mindfulness approach or mindful approach is where is your mind? Where is your attention at any given time? Right? It doesn't have to be that you're completely focused all the time, but where your attention lies is where your energy is. So when you're performing movements throughout the day or lack thereof, right? Being aware of it's really important. It's half the battle. Sometimes people don't realize that sitting 8 hours a day is crushing their spines, their posture, their ability to build strength, right? You can't just expect your body to respond when you get up after sitting for so long. The other thing is when you are doing movements like squatting to a toilet, squatting to a chair, bending over to pick something up, twisting, all of those things are functional movements. And where are you feeling most of the stimulus in your body? Are you feeling it in your knees? Are you feeling it in your hips? Are you getting the twisting just in your lower back and feeling always an ache and pain there? Or are you getting it in your hips and your mid back? So I'm going to teach you today how to perform the 3 functional movements that impact your lower back the most. Not that all of them don't. So there's the primal movements that we do on a daily basis, regardless if you're in a wheelchair or not, right? Well, if you're in a wheelchair, they look a little bit different. Or if you have a severe wound, right? The adaptive community I work with, they all do these movements, but it looks just a little different. So we squat, we hinge, we bend over, we push things, we pull things, we pull things from above, we push things up, right? And we carry things and we twist. So today we're going to cover the squat, the bending over, the hinging, and the twisting, okay? And one of the great tools that I like to use is this band, okay? So a band is great for a reminder on what your knees need to be doing when you do perform a squat. So here's the thing. So we'll set up our spine first, okay? So what I want you to do is put one hand on your chest and one hand on your belly. And I want you to just close your eyes and take some breaths in and breathe out. And where do you feel the breath going in first when you do breathe in? What hand actually moves first? Some of you might say this top hand, some of you might say the lower hand. typically when we work with groups of people, it's people feel it in that lower hand first, or the top hand, excuse me, because you're more upper chest breathers, right? Which is pretty common. So the goal is with this movement, with breath, is to breathe in and feel the bottom hand move first and then the top hand. Fill up and breathe out. Now notice when I do breathe in, right, I want my lower back and my spine to fill up back here too, like the back part of my diaphragm. My diaphragm is the breathing muscle. So it sits right underneath the rib cage, but the rib cage goes all the way back here. So I want to be able to breathe like this, what we call horizontal breathing versus vertical breathing. So let's do this again. Okay, breathe in and try to expand 360 degrees. Okay, so that's the first thing, is setting up your spine for success. Okay, so work on that throughout the day. I always give a rule of thumb, every 25 minutes, work on something movement-wise, right? We aren't designed to just be sedentary standing or sitting or in any one position other than when we're sleeping, but we're designed to move. So when I breathe in, you want the bottom hand to move first, and you want to think about breathing 360 degrees. Think of like a large corset around your body, breathing into that. Okay, so then when you squat, okay, the next thing, so you got your spine set up when you breathe. Then when you squat, what you want to do is put your feet shoulder width apart and toes forward or slightly turned out. So like this, right? I'm not going to be able to show you my feet today, but at least you can see my hips. Okay, and then I'm going to shove my hips back first. I'm going to load the bigger joint first in my body, my hips and pelvis, because that's the stronger joint, right? Not my knees. A very common problem with people that have back pain and knee pain is that they squat like this, right? Their knees pop forward. That doesn't feel good. That doesn't even feel good on me when I do that. So when you do this, right, I always put my hands here just to remind me of my breath. Like I want to breathe lower and in a 360 degree manner. But my spine, I set my spine up first. I load the bigger joint. I drive my knees slightly out, but I go down all the way as low as I can and then come back up, right? That might be, for some of you, right? You might be squatting to a chair and then standing back up, right? It really depends on where you're at. But I would suggest practicing squatting to a chair, right? Focus on setting up your spine first. Toes are forward or slightly turned out, right? Load your hips first, right? Drive your knees slightly out and squat down and come back up. Still driving those knees out, okay? So the big two things you want to think about are spine and then hips. Load those hips first versus the knees, okay? So that's the first thing with the squat. And there's more to it, but in a nutshell, and what we've got going on today, like if you can bring your attention to that movement, because you're going to squat today probably 25 to 50 times depending on your job and what you do. I'm going to go train today. I always train at noon. Like that, I'll be squatting a lot just to pick up weights, get down on the ground, right? If you think of squatting, lunging is a form of a squat, right? Picking my kids up is a squat. Going to the toilet, going to my chair. I do it a lot during the day, and I want to be good at it. It's not something I shouldn't do, okay? If any medical provider tells you that, they're full of it, right? Because it's a primal movement you must do, and so learn to do it well. One way to train and just help you with the whole knee drive out is put a band just below your knees, okay? And so notice I have the band just below my knees. Take a breath in, drive my hips back, drive my knees into the band, right? And keep driving my knees into the band as I perform the squat, right? Notice I'm still loading my hips, right? Not my knees first. So you can practice that. That leads us into the next movement, which is hinging. And hinging is also needed. It's actually a form of a squat, right? It's less knee bending and more torso hinging, right? Well, hinge bending, but you're getting more movement from the hips, more excursion back, and more of a forward progression of the torso. So with this movement, same thing, right? Focus on the breath, breathe in, Make sure it's starting with the lower hand. The lower hand is being pushed first, and even the lower back, right? We're expanding like a balloon horizontally, not vertically. We're not sticking our chest out when we're doing this. So we breathe in, and then we unlock our knees. Our hips go back, but our hips, now that we're not going down with our knees, right? Our hips go back. We shove them back as far as we can, like we're shutting the door with our butt, right? So now you'll notice with your hands, try to make sure that your hands don't move closer together or further apart when you are performing this backward glide of the hips. All right. So what we don't want to see is boom, extension, extension, extension in the lower back, or duck dive. Okay. Otherwise called is, it's also called sad rainbow back, pooping dog back, all those kinds of things. There's lots of different terms. But again, breathe in. You can do this with me. Unlock your hips, shove those hips back like you're shutting the door, almost like you're taking a bow. No need to pick your head up or anything, right? And then imagine you picking up a laundry basket, right? That's a hinge. You really should feel a lot of tension in those glutes and hamstrings. In the squat, you're not going to feel as much tension in the hamstrings, but you want to feel tension in the hips, not the lower back. All right, so those are two key movements. Hinge, let's just practice a couple of them. This is a great thing to do in the morning to kind of wake up that backside. Breathe in, shove those hips back. Breathe out, come up. Breathe in, shove those hips back. Really feel tension in those hamstrings and glutes. My knees are slightly bendy when I'm doing this, but not too much. Okay, so there you have it. That's the hinge movement, right? Notice, again, my spine isn't changing position. It's not duck diving or overextending. A good tool, a good tactile tool to use for that is a broomstick on your spine, or a PVC pipe, or something of that sort that kind of reminds you where your spine is in space. So I put the PVC pipe along my spine and hold it. And then I practice hinging over and making sure that I maintain 3 points of contact with that broomstick or pipe. Back of the head, back of the shoulders, back of the hips. All right, so the third movement that we're going to focus on is the twisting movement. Okay, so when we twist, we are supposed to twist, but where is the twisting supposed to come from? Actually, Skelly can show you here. Okay, the twisting, if you notice in the lower back, right, he's got his thoracic spine and he's got his hips. Okay, and so the movements should be coming from that thoracic spine. The twisting should be coming from here and here primarily, versus just the lower back. The lower back should get some twisting, but the mobility actually needs to come from here and here. Okay, so what we're going to do is just practice that. All right, so you're going to place one leg forward and one leg back, and then you're going to place arms in front of you like so. And then you're going to go ahead and if my left leg is forward, I'm going to rotate my left arm back behind me. All right. And I'm going to really work to open up and get rotation in my rib cage area and my hips, right? Versus just my lower back. So what the problem can look like is if you're using your low back too much to twist or bend, for example, it looks like this, just bending over. Like it almost looks like there's no engagement, versus, right, hinging your hips back, keeping your back straight to go lift something. Or when people twist, it's like they just focus on not really engaging or thinking about where the twisting is coming from. And if they do that and they're really stiff in that mid back and hips, the twisting can often feel like it's coming primarily from here. So a mobility drill that's really easy is this lunge drill, left leg forward, right leg back, and get some rotation in there. Okay. And just do about 10 reps each side on your own, and really think about opening up the chest and hips as you do this. Think of a golf swing. Like, I know probably some of you like to golf or play baseball, right? The baseball hitting or golfing, right, takes a lot of rotation here and here. And when you don't get the good rotation here and here, it actually can create a problem in the lower back. All right. And create low back pain. So if you want to improve your golf game, do this. And this is at least a start. So my right leg is forward, my left leg is back. I'm going to get some rotation. All right. Really try to get so that mid back to rotate and those hips to rotate. Okay. So really trying to think about the whole spine moving together versus just the lower back. Okay. And go ahead and do 10 reps. Really getting that rotation. Okay. You can do that on your own, and that can be a great little movement snack, as we like to call it in Movement RX. All right. So now that you've experienced 3 of the primal movements, squat, hinge, twist, there's a lot to those movements, and there's some great mobility drills to improve the mobility in that rib cage and those hips, as well as provide strength to the lower back or stability. Strength is a little bit different than stability. Stability is like the control of movement in the lower back. And there are muscular endurance things with the smaller muscles of the lower back that we showed in a previous lesson. So if you look at any of my lives on here in the last 2 months, you'll see some great lower back training drills. But strength is a little bit different, right? When we build strength, like the squat, hinge, push, pull, carry, those are the archetypes that you want to train with, because those are what you're going to be doing throughout your day. So if you can actually perform squats in your workout and learn to do them better, or in yoga class or in Zumba or Pilates, like learn to do them better and recruit, right? Load the bigger joint first, protect the spine, right? Doesn't mean you have to be so careful. It just means prioritize the things that are important. Your spine happens to be really important with how you engage with the world. So there's a lot to these movements, and with groups I teach, whether it's law enforcement or companies or individuals, right? These things can really impact your life. Like pain sucks, limited function sucks, right? And oftentimes we look to medication, right, or someone else to fix us, when really we need to look at like, how are we continuously nourishing our bodies with movement, with the foods we eat, with what we observe, right? Where our attention is on a daily basis, where we're putting our time, right? Are we putting our time into practicing movement? Yeah, these movements we learned as a child, we developed them, or they're primal movements. We as humans are innately able to do them, but we lose our ability to do them well over time because of the positions we hold during the day. So if we can improve that and improve our movement lifestyle, imagine what could open up for you. Think of the domino theory. If you change one thing, if you just improve your squat today, like how can that improve all other areas of your life? You're not going to experience pain as much. You'll be able to recruit your glutes, right? You won't feel your back as much. I'm not saying you can ever be pain. Some of you may never be pain-free. No medical provider can ever guarantee you're going to be out of pain completely. It's just the truth. But we can improve your function. And the more you can improve your function, usually the pain decreases over time, depending on how long you've had it and the experience around the pain, right? There's a lot to pain itself, but we can guarantee that you can improve your function. And that will help lessen the pain, as well as maybe even eradicate it completely. So start with bringing your attention to how you're moving today, with the bending, the squatting, and the twisting, actually this entire week. And just like when we talk about neuroplasticity with the brain, the ability to change the brain and build strength in the gray matter with meditation and mindfulness, same with movement, right? You can create a plastic permanent change response in the body by moving better and moving consistently. And by doing that, you start to, change the way your tissues respond. They become more resilient. You experience less pain. That's the result. So I hope this was helpful for some of you, for all of you listening in. I'm going to check and see if there's any comments. One thing I do want to shed light on is if any of this does resonate with you, then consider October 31st, my team at Movement RX, to include Will Schneider and John McCaskill, are running a 90-day mindfulness and movement experience. And so what that entails, it's basically a nice long-term coaching program where you get a full-on intake evaluation of emotional and health needs, right, with one of our doctors of physical therapy. And then you get a plan over the course of 90 days. And depending, it all depends on your lifestyle and what you're looking for, but it's not a one size fits all. But you'll get a plan, and then there's small group check-ins every other week that we do to connect on anything that's happening emotionally and physically, and take you through a curriculum of learning how to create calm in the body, how to create calm in the mind, how to tame the monkey mind, how to be attentive with your movements and improve your movement patterns, and achieve the goals that you want, not just like get within normal limits of your mobility and whatnot, but like really crush it, learn to crush it. And so our job is to teach you over the course of 90 days, which is a nice, more long-term program to support you with actually creating an automated habit, right? It takes 21 days to build a habit, but it takes 66 to become more automatic. And we did a 21-day mindfulness and movement experience, and that was great, but people wanted more. And so now we're offering a little bit more long-term, and the commitment is anywhere from 5 minutes a day to 30 minutes a day. But you can ask yourself, like, what would improve mobility or less pain in your body or less, chaos do for you in your life? And granted, life is chaotic, but how you handle it, how you respond versus react to it, like, what would that mean for you? So I would consider, if this was helpful for you or anything I've posted about or shared about was helpful for you, consider signing up for the October 31st 90-day mindfulness and movement experience. John, Will, and I and our team look forward to working with you. And I will pop in the chat a link where you can learn more and sign up. And with that, let me see if there's any questions. We have, our back rollers really safe? And yeah, so foam rollers, I'm assuming that's what you mean, John, is foam rollers or those sorts of things. Yes. So if you have, I should say, if you have a Harrington rod in your spine or some kind of metal supporting your spine, I wouldn't suggest using like a really thick foam roller. There are half dome ones, like foam rollers cut in half, that you can use, but yeah, they're completely safe. And it's wonderful to roll up and down the spine. If anything, just massage the spine and help it feel better. And that's a form of down regulating the nervous system. That's a good question. And there you go. There's no other questions right now. I will see you all in a couple weeks. If there's any topics that you want to hear about, definitely pop them in the chat or send me a private message. I teach on all kinds of things, movement and mindfulness. So feel free to give me a shout out and tell me what you want to learn. With that, have a wonderful